Extra Time on Tip FM.
Hello, good evening and welcome to another edition of Extra Time. My name is Ronan Quirk. We're here until 8 o'clock this evening and we'd love to hear from you. Our text number is 083 311 3311. That's 083 311 3311. We're also on Blue Sky Extra Time at bsky.social if you want to find us on that medium. WhatsApp messages are the same as text numbers 083 311 3311. Lots to talk about tonight. Tip Limerick obviously will take centre stage in our discussions. We'll also have Tip against Longford in the National Football League. Our ladies footballers were in action against Monaghan. Our Camogie ladies, the Ursuline, were involved in the All-Ireland final. We'll have more on that in due course as well. And we'll also have local soccer with Barry before we go off air this evening. Lots to talk about. And don't forget the Sports Star of the month for February. We're looking for nominations as February is coming to an end. I think this is the last Extra Time in February. So next Monday night we'll be announcing the Tip FM Sports Star of the month for February. And that's, if you want to nominate somebody for February's award, just send an email to sportstar@tipfm.com. That's Sportstar, all one word, at tipfm.com. That's in association with Talbot Hotel Clonmel and Quirk Trophies Limited in Care. And this coming Thursday night, the 12 winners from last year, 2025, will gather in the Talbot Hotel for our overall award. They'll all receive their gongs for their individual meritorious awards, and then we'll have an overall winner. That'll be on Friday night. That'll be on Thursday night, and it'll be recorded and broadcast, as far as I know, on Friday. Lots of really great, worthy recipients, so it'll make for good radio if nothing else, because of the fact that the guests and the guest list is so impressive. Our text number one more time is 083 311 3311. Well, it was a sobering evening, I think it's fair to say, after the delights of Twickenham earlier that afternoon. Ireland going and romping home against the English in Twickenham was always a good way to spend your Saturday, warm up your Saturday afternoon for the main event of the evening, which was in Semple Stadium. But it finished Limerick 36 points, Limerick 36 points, Tipperary 21 points. Sobering is probably the best way of describing it. Here's what Liam Cahill thought of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very disappointing. Look, I suppose you have to start these matches when you any of these big games, when the big teams come to town, you have to be out of the traps early. And I think Limerick scored 9 scores in a row there at the start of the first half, and we were chasing the game all the way from that then on.
I think it took 33 minutes to get a point from play. Like it wasn't happening for whatever reason. Is there anything you can put your finger on to why the lads maybe just didn't have that kind of spark out there?
I can't really. Our preparation has gone really well. We trained well during the week. Disappointed really with our fighting spirit, I think, which is always disappointing to say. We just really got outfought all through the first half, really. And we just never seemed to be able to get a foothold really, or a flow on the game. I think only at one stage through the first half we got kind of 2 scores in a row. Now, having said that, we did create a couple of goal chances, and on a night when you're not really at it, them goal chances don't go in. And granted, it was a great save, all right, from Nicky Quaid, I think, for one, but one hit the crossbar, and then we missed the penalty as well. So all them things add to I suppose the tone of the evening when you're not out of the blocks early and competing aggressively, and we failed to do that. A little bit better in the second half. Got to the pitch of it then, obviously being down to 14 men, made it again all that bit more difficult. But all in all, a disappointing night.
I'd imagine any half-time team talk probably went out the window 30 seconds into the second half when Woolley got put off.
Yeah, and I thought we started the second half reasonably okay, but with credit to the lads, in fairness, they really stuck at it down to 14 men. There was Noel McGrath again is exceptional, isn't he, really, to be fair to him. Great to see young Cathal O'Reilly come through it as well. That's a big positive. Keith Ryan got his first bit of action tonight, looked comfortable on the ball when he came on, and a couple more. Dara Stakelum did really well when introduced, I thought. So quite a number of positives to take from it as well, from a personnel point of view, but in general across the board we would be disappointed, really disappointed.
As All-Ireland champions, Liam, is there any sense of picking and choosing your battles or not?
Look, we've made no secret that every time we play in Thurles we want to win. We want to win every day, but especially in Thurles. And again, there was a huge crowd there tonight. I think up to 15,000 people, and it's really disappointing for them going away to have it such one-sided really. But in fairness, credit to Limerick again. Anyone that had any I suppose thoughts of them being kind of weighed or far from it, like they showed all their physique and good hurling decisions as of old, and they'll be a real force come the business end of the year again, I'd imagine.
Did you see the red card? It looked like maybe just kind of loose or just caught a helmet or...
Yeah, no, I didn't see it. To be honest, I'm going to have a look at it here on the laptop or whatever with the team after this. But look, Colin Lyons was fairly close to the action. I'm sure that he had a better view of it than definitely than I had. So I can't really comment on it, to be honest.
Big game now next league. The next game is a big game now, like in terms of the league and that,
It is, yeah. It's a huge game. The league, getting to a league final now is probably beyond us after tonight, to be fair. So, we really have to start putting real shape on our personnel and our panel. We carried quite a big numbers to date with everything else that's going on with Fitzgibbon Cup and Freshers hurling and all that. So now that they're all nearly concluded, it gives us a great chance to really knuckle down and go after a lot of areas of our play today that was really disappointing.
Liam, with 10 points from play and probably 5 or 6 of those coming from Noel McGrath, the return in the forward wouldn't be...
I know, it's
what you'd like.
No, that's like Limerick are up on, what were they tonight, 30-something points?
31 from play.
31 from play. That's the benchmark, and we know that, and them fellas down the corridor know that as well. And, I've always said it, when we need to be scoring, at least 2 or 3 green flags a game with into the 20-point range, and we just weren't doing it tonight. And, we were second to the breaks. We were, rucks weren't really on our side either. Limerick came out with a lot of ruck ball, and they were really aggressive again in the swarm tackle. Again, everything that Limerick have been renowned for down the years, they produced it again tonight. And it's not that we didn't see anything coming. Of course we did. We just weren't able to compete. And again, we're going to have a really good look at it again over the next couple of days, and we'll go after it. But there's good spirit in that room. We've been here before. We know what's required, and we'll roll up our sleeves and go back and work hard again and try and go to Welsh Park in 2 weeks' time and steady the ship a little.
That's Liam Cahill speaking to the assembled media, including Paul Carroll of Tip FM. After that defeat on Saturday night in Semple Stadium, texts flooding in on 083 311 3311. One texter says, for me, Saturday's result was a worry, not because we lost a league match in February, not because of the huge margin of defeat, but because of the similarity to the Cork game. Against Cork, our half-backs and midfield were taken for 16 points from open play, and on Saturday it was 13 points from play. This trend needs urgent attention, or it can suck the confidence out of the team, says one texter. On WhatsApp, somebody else says, I feel sorry. I'm very disappointed over Tipperary hurlers' performance on Saturday. A lot of people paid good money to watch that display. 083 311 3311. Ken Hogan is on the line. How are you, Ken?
Roland, how's everything?
How do you pick over the bones of that? I mean, you don't want to overanalyse it, because we could be here for an hour and we might look foolish come the first round of championship, where we'll see a completely different Tipperary performance. But it's hard to sit here and not say, do you know what, this requires a little bit of surgery or attention at least.
Yeah, I think Liam has acknowledged that there in his interview. I suppose we sort of flagged it before the game as well. Paul and myself chatted there the night before the match, and we discussed obviously the Limerick half-back line of Coughlin, Donoghue and Hayes, all standing 6'3", 6'4", and we were wondering how we were going to surmount that hurdle, and obviously we didn't. We struggled straight away from the very word go. We were chasing shadows, Ronan, and given the fact that we didn't get to the pitch of the game in time, it meant that by half-time, 9 of the Limerick players had scored. All their midfielders, right half-back Coughlin, and 6 forwards had scored, and scored well, as you well know. So from that point of view. We were beaten in all departments, Liam obviously mentioned Noel McGrath. I felt Seamus Kennedy had a very good game. Cathal Riley came through as well again. Sean Kennelly created a goal chance for Derry Stakeham, hit the crossbar himself, and also won a penalty. So in fairness to him, on meagre ball, he did very well in that instance. So the only goal opportunities that were created really by Tip. In the first half, we needed to convert one or two of those. We probably should have. A missed penalty, and then you had a situation where only for Joe Caesar's intervention, Limerick, through Darragh Donovan, would have had a goal. It was a brilliant hook, and that could have opened the floodgates totally. So it was a strange type of game, 31 points in play, some shooting, but it does tell us the dominance of this Limerick team on Saturday night.
Yeah, I suppose... Is it just that Limerick are for a fortnight further down the road than us? I thought their accuracy of shooting was really, really impressive for a dirty night in February. You've got to give them credit for that. But maybe we stood off them a bit too much, so it's easy to look impressive when there isn't a defender close enough to you to challenge you as you're taking your strike.
Yeah, they're probably a month down the road. You can imagine Tipperary in 2024. Preparation started in October, November, for Tip. Same with Limerick last year, after being exited, so early in the championship themselves, in the month of May. So from their perspective, they have had a long time to chew on this. Also, of course, the conundrum for Limerick is you had that axis there of English, Aidan O'Connor and Cathal O'Neill, who were absolutely outstanding the other night. And now there are guys that have been coming and going with this Limerick team, outstanding young players, but have never been utilised fully. Obviously, they have first team places now, and the likes of Tom Morrissey, David Burns are maybe struggling for their places. But the big conundrum for Limerick is, do you go with your tried and trusted, or is he going to place his fate in those younger hurlers? So that six forwards that Limerick started, at the weekend, are a potential championship forward line. But from our point of view, obviously, from our restarts right through the match, we struggled. Tip will get that right. You heard about him. They're going back in with his backroom team to analyse all this. I think, you could see a lot of the players were heavy-legged. There's probably a block of work being done, and there certainly will be a block of work being, this fortnight before they play Waterford down in Waterford, which is obviously an important game considering we're going there for championship as well. So I think the lads are a month behind in preparations. They are doing probably a block of work there. And from their perspective, I suppose it's important to remember that we've got to, again, as I said to you before, Ken, Roland, look at the bigger picture towards championship.
No, I think that's all. Everything you've said is very fair, but I'm just to pick up on, maybe tease it out a little bit. I think your point is that Limerick are a lot closer to their championship 15 than we are. Liam made a point about how he was carrying quite a lot of personnel into this league because of Fitzgibbon, because of freshers, because of other commitments, because of injuries. Let's face it, there's quite a few All-Ireland starters we haven't seen yet because of injuries. We haven't seen Mikey, we haven't seen Ronan, for two just come straight off the top of my head. So I presume some personnel cull might happen in the coming weeks. No reflection on anyone's contribution so far, and certainly no reflection on what happened on Saturday night. But is that fair? That we said that Limerick are a month down the road than us, but they're much more championship honed than us.
Without a shadow of a doubt. Like we've got to look at the bonuses. Like obviously you mentioned Ronan, Mikey Breen, John McGrath, Jason Ford. Guys like that who haven't been involved so far in any big way. So Limerick definitely way down the road. I think, to be fair to the management team, when you talk about culls, they will treat every player with respect. They know the players, what they've contributed, what they're given, to the team. So everybody will get a fair crack at the whip. I'm sure there'll be a match or two over the next fortnight. Obviously to validate players' claims to be on the panel. So I think, Limerick definitely way down the road. Potentially a Limerick Cork final, league final. I don't think anyone would wish. I don't think we would have any appetite for a Cork Tip final at this stage. I think it's more important that we prepare for the real days of championship in end of April, in early May. But definitely Limerick have a point to prove, and when you have competition like they have competition in their setup, they're naturally going to be more hungrier. They wanted to make a statement. They came to Thurles to make a statement. They probably expected a bigger challenge from Tip. They went all out, almost in championship gear. And we were found wanting.
Yeah, but it was a Limerick team without Cian Lynch. It was a Limerick team without Dermot Byrne. It was a Limerick team where Tom Morrissey only came in midway through the second half. They still have a couple of aces up their sleeve that they didn't throw into the fray on Saturday night. So maybe they're not as championship honed as I said.
That's what I've already mentioned that, Ronan. These are you're mentioning guys now that maybe are in the autumn of their careers, and maybe it's time for the young fellas that played last weekend to step up and take their places. I think there is a definitely an element of presumption in Limerick that they need to change their team. They need to freshen their team. They definitely did that. I felt it was nearly an almost 15 championship team. I think the big bonus for us, obviously, Cathal O'Reilly so good again, and of course the ace in the pack that we have still Noel McGrath to call on. I think he's hurling as well as he ever hurled in his career. I think that's a huge bonus for Tipperary, considering he wasn't a starter in 2025. And above all, these guys will go back into training tomorrow night, and they'll know that they will have to produce something for Liam and his management team that will put them back in, into the good books of this management team, because we've been here before with poor, bad defeats, and the boys have responded in a big way, and we've got to respond again. Well,
the fortnight in Walsh Park is going to be very educational, if nothing else. As always, Ken, thanks for your time on a Monday night. Appreciate it.
Anytime, Ron.
Thanks indeed. Ken Hogan, who was on match commentary for us on Saturday night. 083 311 3311. JJ Kennedy's with me. How are you, JJ? Hang on, I think we're just patching JJ through. We'll be back to him in a second. Our text number is 083 311 3311. I'm hoping JJ is patched through. How are you, JJ?
Hi, Ronan.
Good to talk to you, JJ. I have so many questions on text. I don't think you'd be here for the night if I'd be like John Bowman putting questions to you if I put them all to you. Here's one. What's going on with Limerick fouling so much? They don't need to. I think this Paul in Boris is asking me to ask you about the 3-man tackle, and they've always been the same way, and there's nothing new in the way Limerick play the game. They're a little bit on the edge. They get away with things that otherwise they might not, but I don't think there's anything new in what we're seeing from Limerick and the style of play that they bring.
No, there isn't. Just that they sort of went back to some of their better play on Saturday night. I think after a period, last 2 years, I suppose things bit up and down for them, but it's their style of play. They go after this, I suppose, what is often called the swarm tackle, where and there was certainly evidence on Saturday night where as soon as the tip man got the ball, he was swamped immediately. He was surrounded by 3 or 4 players, and they do play it on the edge, and they do the loose hand particularly is pulling at the player in possession, and they're kind of doing it on the edge. A lot of the time they get away with it. Some of the time they get pulled up, and that's where the freeze came out of the last night. But that's the style. I think they kind of factor in, we're going to give away some freeze here, but in the longer or in the bigger picture, it's worth it that you stifle the opposition and you don't allow them to develop any momentum or set any movement going. And it's working for them. And they absolutely swamped us on Saturday night. We just could not break the tackle. We couldn't get free. Everything was hurried. We couldn't develop anything. And they wiped the floor with us really in the first half. That's the bottom line, which is very worrying.
Their ability to turn us over and then very quickly transition the ball into somebody in space. I thought it happened time and time again. While if we did manage to turn them over, we couldn't find a man in space at all.
Yeah, and that was the difference. And I think one of the stats that emerged from the first half alone, out of their 20 points, that 14 of them came from turnovers. Precisely as you said, Ronan, that Tip in possession, and suddenly they're turned over, and then it's the sheer speed with which they're able to set a counter-attack in motion. They have runners all over the place. They have players in space. But I think part of it as well is, Limerick obviously targeted this game. There's no doubt about that. This was one that they would have occupied their minds over the winter, that this is one we're going to come strong at. And because remember, in their earlier games in this league, they weren't exactly blowing the lights out. Waterford beat them. Even against Kilkenny, okay, they won it and deservedly won it, but again, a relatively small margin. It was touch and go for a while. So this was the best form they've produced in the league so far, and it was like a throwback to a couple of years ago. And they met a Tip team that, for some reason, just wasn't ready, wasn't braced or prepared at all for that type of challenge, and we got absolutely blown apart as a result. And you have at the end of the day, you had a defeat that's historic almost. I was just checking the records. Actually, it equals our worst ever defeat by Limerick in a National League game. And I'm not sure even, I think that may even go across the championship as well. I haven't checked out the championship ones.
It's also the highest points total ever in league history.
Yeah, 36. Incredible.
But
I mean, the last time we lost by 15 points in the league to Limerick was back in Mick Mackey's time, 1934. That's putting it in context.
But I'm trying to be glass half full merchant here. Did we learn more from the game than Limerick did? Because Limerick thought that we'd ask questions of them. We didn't ask those questions, so Limerick came away learning nothing, with a kind of a glorified training session for some of the match that might not be what people thought they were paying in for, but that's what they saw. From a Tip point of view, it kind of tells us where we need to be and how far off the requisite standard for championship is right now.
Yeah, I think so. It's a bit of a reality check, and we can talk about, and it's a fair point that obviously as All-Ireland champions, you don't get to restart the following season in a stronger position as other teams. Everything is a little bit delayed, and you're playing catch up to an extent, and that has to be factored into it. But just remember as well that in the John Kiley era, our record against Limerick is absolutely atrocious.
I think it's 13 in a row that we haven't beaten them.
It's 13 in a row. It's I think 15 out of 17 games now. That's across league and championship. So they have our measure. On good days and bad days, they just have our measure. That's the reality of it, and maybe there's an element of psychology involved in it at this stage as well. But going back to your question, I mean, it is a bit of a reality check for Tip. It's kind of a wake-up, because the season is so condensed, we get very little time to address this. A fortnight's time, you have Waterford, which now becomes an absolutely critical league game. Because if we lose that one, we're staring down relegation, and that's a scenario we certainly don't want.
Certainly didn't think of that after the first night against Galway, or even after the second night against Offaly. We didn't entertain such thoughts. Tom McGrath's with us. How are you, Tom?
I'm not sure how I am, Ronan.
Okay, well, I'll tease it out of you then if you just go on the psychiatrist's couch for me for a minute. Why you said you made a very valid point to me about last week about players like winning. They don't like defeat. They don't like heavy defeats. They don't like performances that are so subpar that everyone in the crowd is kind of wondering what in the name of God's going on. So that's a reflective meeting, I'd say, tomorrow night for the players and management, yeah?
Yeah, because, Ron, you kind of picked it all there. We got all them things last Saturday night, it was I found it, you'll be picking through the thing, trying to come up with a couple of crumbs of comfort here and there, I made a point 2 weeks ago, Cork tactic, fouling at source. Does anybody know the free count from last Saturday night?
Tom McGrath knows the free count from last Saturday night.
Yeah, we got 23 frees in 70 minutes. Limerick got the grand total of 6. Now, there was 13. There was half of our frees were outside the scoring range. In other words, we didn't score them or we didn't miss them. So, I mean, a lot of the frees were back between our goal line and our 45, because we have the machinery to go for scores from anywhere beyond our own 45 with Owen Connolly in the wagon at this stage.
Would you describe it as tactical fouling?
Oh, there's nothing else for it. Like that. The spare arm, the drag here, the pull there, and holding up the player. We won't even go in. Okay, we got a penalty. We missed the penalty. Did it matter whether the Limerick player got a black card or not? No, not in the outcome of the thing. It may have mattered had we scored a penalty. It would have given a little bit of a lifeline coming to half time, but sort of we needed more than that. But just measuring things and saying, well, trying to find something that we can drag on to like that. Our score, our wides tally versus Limerick's was the very same, 8 apiece. So nothing there, and we had 3 really good goal chances. Limerick will be unhappy that they had the makings of goal chances that they never turned into a shot. John Kiley will let that stick to beat his lads with tomorrow night. We'll have to look at then, say, the penalty, Seanie Keneally's shot that hit the crossbar, stroke upright together, and then the goalie made a smart save, I think, to Dara Stakelum. So 3 good goal chances, and this other days we got them other days. We didn't get them the other night. Our first 15 minutes, ball was going here and going there. I'll use Noel McGrath as an example. He just couldn't buy a ball the first 20 minutes. But he stayed at it. And next thing, the ball started to break and started to run for him. And he finished up with 6 points. That sort of maybe a little bit more perseverance from a few more of our lads at critical stages could have helped the thing as well. But I kind of wondered we didn't make changes then either, that I kind of thought might have a switch between Brian O'Mara and Owen Connolly.
I couldn't agree more.
That was one that sort of. But then
now, in fairness to Brian O'Mara, it's very hard to play 3. And JJ, I'll get your view on this. If the ball is coming in with the frequency it was coming in and the quality of ball that was coming in from Limerick, because we were getting cleaned out. Our half forward line was getting cleaned out. Our midfield was getting cleaned out. Our half back line was getting cleaned out. So, what's a full back line supposed to do?
I mean, it's very difficult when you go, singling individuals, which I wouldn't do. It was a collective collapse, really, because you're dead right. I mean, the middle third of the field, from the 2 half forward lines and the midfield was a disaster zone for us. We were just getting no traction there at all. So it meant, of course, that Limerick could pick their ball into the forward line. Now, what they did, of course, is what they have traditionally done under John Kiley. They went for a high points total. I mean, we know in the years they were winning the All Irelands, they won the 5 All Irelands in 6 years, that their target was always 30 points in a match, and the goals were something that, well, they might or they might not come, but the points was the big thing, and that was the way with them on Saturday night as well. There were occasions they could have gone in for goals or tried for goals, and they didn't. They just took the point. That's the policy. But you'd have to have sympathy for any defence facing a game like that, because they're really under the cosh, and it's a collective thing. It's not an individual failure in any way. And I guess there is a theory, and I think it's fairly well established at this stage, that Owen Connolly perhaps isn't best suited to full back. He's much better out in the half line, where he's more space and movement, and he's good coming forward in that. And I think maybe that would have been a reason why there wasn't a switch between himself and Brian O'Mara.
Tom, everything you've said about Limerick is correct in terms of the way that the tactical fouling, all that, the way they play the game. But there was a sort of a naivety, I thought, to our approach. Did we not know what was coming?
Yeah, but the way Limerick were so smart, their movement off the ball and even on the ball, they had lads coming out, and what I'd like to see is some bit of a graphic with, otherwise sometimes they produce, these statisticians do have their uses now, mind, that they'd mark the points on the pitch from where the points were shot. I'd like to see the amount of shots that Limerick got off and amount of scores they got from 50 metres plus, There was a lot of shots, and that gives, JJ's point total traction there, that middle third. An awful lot of their scores came from that middle third because they had players came out. We had a spare backman, or had we? I thought
we had, yeah.
Yeah, and then Limerick still came out with a player, but it seemed then that we weren't sure who was supposed to come. If we have a spare backman, I think you can go man for man on what else is there, just once you're sure who the nominated backman is. The nominated backman last year was Brian O'Mara, and Brian O'Mara played that role to an absolute T. Maybe we'll hold that one in reserve for another time. But, that everyone was clear on what it was, you see. But then, that would be where I would have seen the problem, that we were unsure. We didn't have a clue who was to come. But I wouldn't mean that as criticism either. I think it was just one of those days. I mean, I talked already about touch not working for lads, but and then lads get dispirited, and takes a bit of experience then to kind of work the way through it, and that's what happened the other night. We kind of lost the first 15 minutes. We lost that game 11 points to 2, and in the last 5 minutes we lost it 6-2. So in that 20-minute zone, we lost the game 17 points to 4. That's a 13-point margin. The margin for the rest of the game was 2 points. So in that more than middle phase, that middle two-thirds, we held our own with Limerick and created 3 goal chances. And, unfortunate not to get one of them even. Had we got one of them, had we got 2 of them, totally different game, totally different analysis tonight, then we'd be talking about a humdinger. But the other stupid stat from the other night, apparently it is the highest point-scoring goalless league game in history. 57 points, no goal.
Yeah, and that Limerick's total of 36, I think, is the highest any ever accumulated by one side.
Our 21 wasn't so bad then either, and we're very upset about the thing. But I think it's easier to fix a defensive problem than an attacking problem. So we scored 21 points. Yeah, we can fix a lot of the 36, I think.
I'm going to finish because it's 25-8 all of a sudden. 2 very quick questions, JJ. If it was a penalty, why wasn't it a black card?
It wasn't a black card because, and this is a complaint I've had a long time, the cynical foul rule is badly worded. The cynical foul rule only covers 3 different offences. One is tripping a player, pulling a player down, or striking with the hurley. Now, my understanding that Tom Morrissey's foul didn't come under any of those 3 categories. I think he was the hurley in around the head or something. Maybe technically you could declare that as striking. I don't know, but I think that's the way it was judged, that any of the requirements for the cynical foul for the black card weren't committed in that particular instance. In which case, the penalty, possibly a yellow card, maybe should have been dished out. But penalty, and it didn't qualify as a black card, I think.
I didn't see any good angle of the red card incident, but what we can say from it is that Colm Lyons was right in front of it and had no hesitation, and there wasn't squeals of protest anywhere. So, red, do you think?
Yeah, again, like that, I haven't seen any good shot on it. Those was there at the match. I mean, it happened so fast. I think people just didn't see it. Everybody was a bit stunned and surprised because it came so quick in the second half. And but it seems there was just a little bit of flick of the hurley that may have caught Darragh O'Donovan. It's Darragh O'Donovan's helmet, and if that happens, then technically the referee is correct. Though you could have looked at some of the other games at the weekend, and there were head-high tackles that were a hell of a lot worse, and they got it at most a yellow card, and in some cases not even freeze.
Yeah, I know. We'll debate that again. Thanks indeed, gentlemen, for your time. I've got to fly on. We've other things to cover, but I really appreciate your efforts this evening. Thank you to both.
Okay, Ronan.
That's JJ Kennedy and Tom McGrath with their analysis on Tipperary versus Limerick on Saturday night. Shane Brophy was there, but I don't have time to talk to you about that. Shane, how are you?
Yeah, hi Ronan. No, I was laid up with the flu Saturday, but it was a hard watch watching it on television on Saturday evening. It
was a hard watch when you were in the full year health. It must be equally difficult when you had a bit of not man flu. Sorry, I'm sure it was the full blown flu. That was the slip of the tongue. You did though get to Longford.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I made it up to Longford yesterday, and I suppose for a finish tip, like when you're 4 points down going into injury time, to conjure up a draw. you'd be glad to come away with a point. But then on the flip side, Tip were 2 points down at half time, having played against a very, very strong wind. So probably bittersweet in terms of maybe that it was a game that could have been, that was there to be won. But I suppose Niall Fitzgerald said with the London game and now this, like Tipperary, or you can't say they're not lacking for spirit. Like they've managed to draw 2 games they were losing, so in the closing stages. So like I suppose that's all about part of the learning experience for this young group of players. Like they did some very, very good things yesterday, and I suppose when they made mistakes they were punished. But I suppose that's what you get with such a young group of players.
You know, I always loved watching Mark Russell kick 2-pointers and wondered if there was anyone else going to help him out with it. Young Cian Smith and Shawnee O'Connor chipped in with those. They're critical scores. Obviously everyone who's watching football since the new rules come in don't need that explained to them, but it's great to get that the fellas taking it on as well.
Absolutely, Tip got 3 of them yesterday. Shawnee O'Connor got 2, one of each from playing for frees, and Cian Smith got 1, like 8 points from play from Cian, 6 points and a 2-pointer. He was tremendous, and I suppose that'd be the encouraging thing for Tipperary, is that he was so good. Shawnee O'Connor on limited possession now was very good. Dahi Hogan was very, very lively again. Like we do look like we have some scoring forwards again. Like it's suppose the thing for Niall Fitzgerald and his manager will be to move back down the other end in terms of defence, and like if we can get enough hands on the ball, that would have been another frustrating thing. The first 20-25 minutes yesterday, we absolutely ate Longford up under the kick out, but as the longer the game went on, and particularly in the second half when we had the wind in our favour, we struggled to get our hands on the ball, and Longford were patient and they worked some good scores, and it looked like they were going to get the win until Tipperary pulled something together at the end and nearly won it. Paddy O'Keefe had a chance with the last attack to get a win and score, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, Niall has said a couple of times in interviews, you know, that there's a naivety about our play. They're young players, we've got to give them time. They're learning all the time. If we can just perhaps learn fast in our defence, do we have the scoring forwards to cause teams trouble?
Oh, I think we do. I think you definitely we just Cian Smith getting 8 points. He really looks like he doesn't need a second invitation to have a shot, and we've seen Dahi Hogan with St. Patrick's and with UL recently. Very lively player.
Yeah,
I thought James Morris had an outstanding game yesterday. He was played in the half-back line yesterday, and particularly his ability to get forward, like if you get him on the run and he's cutting through the middle, there's it's hard for him to stop. So I suppose, the next thing will be in terms of just being a bit more patient on the ball. Strangely enough, both teams played better into the wind yesterday when they knew the supposed to be the haymaker of a long range shot wasn't on and things like that. And no, I think I suppose frustrating in a way, because like Longford are probably not the team they were a couple of years ago. Like it was in terms of getting an away win. It would have been a good one to get. Like I suppose Niall Fitzgerald still not ruling out promotion. I suppose with Leitrim at home next Sunday, like that's one that's very, very winnable, and like it'll probably all come down to then if Tip can get the win, it'll come down to the Wicklow game in a couple of weeks' time. It looks like Carlow are away and gone in terms of promotion, so it's very tight. I think there's 5 counties, 2 points between 5 counties for second place at the moment.
Yeah, and Leitrim have had an up and down league, a bit like ourselves. They've played 2, lost 2, won 2. They've beaten Antrim, and I think they beat Wicklow as well. So, I think that's a very winnable game if we can just put it all together. The patches of play that we've seen, the patches of nice football, skillful football, brave, unencumbered football. I don't know what the word I'm looking for is. I think you know what I'm saying. That we've seen. If we can put that together for maybe 60, 65, 70 minutes, it'd be wonderful.
That's it. And I suppose it's just the one thing we're probably with trying to develop a new team is getting a style of play, and I suppose getting to manage a game, and then knowing when to put on the afterburners and knowing when to maybe kill the game off. And I suppose that hopefully that'll all come. Like there's still trying players in different positions. Paddy Feehan played a lot of yesterday's game in the middle of the field. I thought Mark Stokes had a great game, wing back. Luke Boland was a centre back. So as I mentioned, James Morris was full back for the first 3 matches. They moved him out wing back yesterday. So I'm they're still trying to, suppose, mould that team together, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of other guys over the next few weeks. I thought Jack O'Neill and Killian Butler were very, very effective and energetic when they came off the bench there yesterday. So it's I suppose, I think that the Leitrim game is in Clonmel next Sunday.
2 o'clock.
Moved out of Thurles, so I suppose any time Tipperary tend to maybe need a win at home, Clonmel has always been a good spot for them. And if they can get that, they'll have 2 weeks before they go to Wicklow, and with the last game at home to Waterford. So the next 2 games will be key if they have any chance that they want to get up to Division 3.
We'll learn a lot, I think, as well next Sunday afternoon in Clonmel. Thanks for your time, Shane. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Thanks indeed. Shane Brophy, who was at the Tip Longford game. Let's turn our attention to Camogie, because the All-Ireland Senior Schools Camogie final took place in Gurtnahu at the weekend. Defeat for the Ursuline. Let's hear from their coach, Olivia Hogan, who spoke to Stephen Gleeson at the full-time whistle.
Oh sure, disappointment, Stephen. Probably Loretto were a better team in spots all over the field, but girls stayed vital to the finish, so that's all we can ask them to do, but bitterly disappointed.
Yeah, I suppose they got a good start, they got a goal, and their full forward was very strong, the player of the match, and that set them up nicely and set them in the right frame of mind, and they held the advantage in very difficult playing conditions, because the wind and the rain made things very tough.
Yeah, I suppose once they got a bit of a lead, they were able to command that, and we were fighting for scores, so I suppose they were able to drop a player back and hold on to their lead and, continue to keep that right to the end.
And you had forwards pushing hard there, but Caoimhe Stakelum was the real leader there, and she struck some great scores under pressure, despite the wind, despite the rain.
Yeah, absolutely. Caoimhe's an exceptional talent, great leader in the field, and the girls working really hard with her, but we just found the scores very hard to come by, so that's the ultimate difference in the end.
Yeah, and overall, I suppose you look back on this year and one, and you may still have an All-Ireland, but as one of real progress, because you got to the senior final and you're in the junior final against Loretto as well, and that one is still to come.
Yeah, and I suppose ultimately our goal at the start of the year is to try and get ourselves out of Munster, and we're still Munster champions obviously, and that's no mean feat in the competition that we have going in Munster, so delighted with that, but obviously you'd like to get over the line today, but we look forward to the junior final now next Saturday.
And same opponents, and a lot of the players that tugged out today will be doing so in that as well.
Yeah, and it's probably a good learning curve for them as well, because some of them have never played in these sort of games before or against Loretto like this, so great learning day for us as well, so hopefully we'll bring that forward with us.
Yeah, just after the match there, when the speeches were made, the point was made though that the game should be played with a stand, with nice conditions for spectators, for the players. Instead it was wind, rain, no stand, and the pitch was in great condition and everything, but they probably deserve more for an All-Ireland final.
Yeah, huge credit has to go to Gurtnahu, who made their facilities available here and really did go above and beyond to try and make everything very good here, but the boys' equivalent is played in Croke Park, so I think that's as much as I need to say.
Okay, and that's a point that is well worth reiterating. President of the GAA, Nicky Brennan, was there today, and he made the exact same point after the game.
Yeah, I just go back to the boys' equivalent is played in Croke Park.
And I suppose your needs that parity, that's something that you're looking for long term, and Camogie Association have to start pushing for that, or else nobody's talking about it.
Yeah, these games are top class games, and the girls deserve every bit of credit and every bit of recognition that they can get, and deserve the same recognition as far as I'm concerned. So
yeah, looking at it from your point of view, you have to pick up some of the players in that dressing room, get ready again for the junior final next weekend, and all to play for still now. All to play for still,
yeah. Completely, I suppose, different bunch really. We had 5 an overlap, but there's a huge contingent behind that again, and they're young girls, they're under 16 and a half, so it's a completely different kind of ball game, but again we know the challenge we're facing.
Yeah, and from today, just to sum it up here, I suppose, big year here, didn't work out today, but we'll see a lot of those players in the blue and gold.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. You'll see them in the blue and gold. You've seen them already at 16s and minors, but we'll see them going forward for Tipperary, yeah.
That's Olivia Hogan speaking to Stephen Gleeson after the defeat for Ursuline Thurles at the hands of Loretto Kilkenny. Geraldine Canan's on the line. Good evening to you, Geraldine.
Good evening, Ronan.
Olivia's parsing her words quite carefully there, but she's not particularly pleased with the promotion of the schools Camogie blue ribbon final. With all great gratitude to Gurton Hoo for making their pitch available, but the point is well made by Stephen. No stand, nobody from the Camogie Association to present the cup. These aren't good optics.
No, it certainly isn't, and I don't understand it myself. Schools Camogie, so I find it myself, I suppose, from the PR point of view, even just trying to find details, and I know a lot of that is logistics in the school with a lot of the teachers are organising the games and bus and Olivia does unbelievable Trojan work when it comes to Munster schools, Camogie and Tipperary. She's nearly but when it gets outside of Munster, then it's the promotion is, it's not good enough. I would feel the All-Ireland final, it was Senior A final, and I mean, shock your listeners even by that's just... Sorry,
you just broke up there when you said you're going to shock our listeners, and then your line dropped, so say it again.
Yeah, I was saying, I suppose it's just there was no lines, people, the ref was there.
Oh my God. I mean, if you would contrast that with the Harty Cup final, and this is an All-Ireland final.
I mean, that was probably my biggest gripe was the lack of lines, because in fairness, the Gurton Hoo pitch was in good condition, but obviously not weather having, I suppose, it's probably been worse than ever from this time of the year and so difficult to get a field. But look, at the same time, I just feel like the Camogie Association probably I don't know what role they play when it comes to schools Camogie, but it's certainly not enough is being done. It seems to fall through the cracks every year, and it just seems to be up to the individual schools and people like Olivia. And if Olivia ever stepped away, I would seriously worry for schools Camogie, because she seems to be single-handedly doing so much in the organisation work. Even aside from Ursuline, she's presenting cups there and stepping into lots of different roles. But certainly it was disappointing from that point of view, and it's not good enough, really.
No, we could talk about that for a long time. We don't have the time to do it. Resurgent Kilkenny kind of took Tipperary's scalp on at the weekend as well.
Yeah, look, I saw an interview with one of their players talking about a different buzz or a different kind of bond in the camp this year, and that's kind of how they played. They played like a really united group, and they had a win the week before, and they seemed to bounce off that again and made sure of a win at home. Thinking after, it's probably a bit of hurt there from last year from the quarter final, when I suppose they had the ball in the back of the net and it was pulled back for a penalty, which Tip subsequently saved, and they probably feel hard done by the quarter final last year. So it seemed to be they were all out, and certainly from the get-go had the wind advantage and tore into Tip, and Tip didn't seem to be ready for the intensity, and just Kilkenny got a run at him and led by 11 points to 2 at half time. So look, it'd be very disappointing, I suppose, from a Tipperary point of view to only score 2 points in the first half. But I suppose a good point is that they definitely turned around the second half, much better performance, outscored Kilkenny in the second half, and you could say won the second half, but ultimately gave themselves too much to do, and Kilkenny finished strong with 2 points as well at the end there to win that game, 15 points to 10. But I suppose I didn't realise myself until asking a few questions at the weekend how many players are actually unavailable to James at the moment. I think he said there's 15 players, between just a good few after having kind of different surgery, minor surgery there, between Casey Hennessy and Aoife McGrath and Emer Heffernan and Cream Blair. Unfortunately, they all had operations there in the recent weeks and months, so they're all out of action, and a couple of more injuries as well. So look, when he gets everyone back, I suppose he'll have a much stronger hand. But look, he's using it to his advantage too, to give game time into younger players, and he's learning a lot. But I suppose he would be hoping to pick up maybe a couple of wins before this league runs out, to prepare you for the Munster and All-Ireland Championship.
Who's next?
So they've Galway at home. So that's Galway at home, so I suppose that's a game that he'll have to target at home as well. It'll be the first home game of the year, and looking for a better performance. But still, we had a great win against Antrim, and they turned around at Cork at the weekend.
Okay, I missed that. Your line keeps dropping on us, Ger. I'm going to say thanks a million for tonight, and we'll talk next week. Thanks indeed.
Thanks, Ronan.
Not at all, Ger Canan. Apologies for the dodgy line up the county. Martin Grey, ladies football PRO, is on the line. How are you, Martin?
Well, I'm fine. How are you doing?
Very well. A tale of two halves in Sportsfield in Clonmel at the weekend.
Yeah, completely. It's something you kind of I didn't think myself, even after being on the pitch before the ball was thrown in. The wind was extremely strong, but it certainly was a game of two halves. I didn't think it was as strong as it was. Monaghan certainly didn't look in the game all the way to half-time at 1 point on the board, and Tipperary at 111 on the board. And then to end up at 112 apiece at the finish line was something I did not expect at half-time.
I suppose there's more regret at that because of the first half lead.
Yes, absolutely. Huge regret. And I think the girls themselves are very frustrated at at the performance. It's something, it's very hard to credit it when it's coming at you. And Monaghan, in fairness, played the game. They roll on and off the players. They made 3 subs before the ball was thrown in, and I'd say it was a case of because of the wind, and certainly used it to their advantage in the second half and ran at us in very similar vein as what we did in the first half, and used the wind and conditions and brought it back in. Albeit two pointers in the wind brought them that bit closer as well from a scoring point of view. But we were kind of lucky in the end to come away with the draw in some respects. Okay,
because we've mentioned on this show, home game's so important. I mean, you started well against Wexford, you got points on the road, but then you got So what's next?
Look, I think there's a small bit of lack of rub of the green. There was a point there was a point drop in Mayo. To be honest with you, 2 points because we were certainly only for a brilliant save. We were 2 points ahead in the last 9 minutes of the game. The game against Cavan again is the same thing. Small things didn't go our way that caused the game to be lost. So on a whole, I think David is making progress. He certainly changed the dynamic of the team quite a bit. And what I was very, very pleased to see was actually our transition from defence into attack yesterday in large parts of the game, and how quickly we did it. And there was a lot of great move, a lot of great play by a lot of players, but it was a struggle in the second half to get back up to the other end of the goal, even to get a shot off. It was disappointing.
Martin, I got to fly. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks indeed. That's Martin Grey with a report on that Tip Monaghan draw in Ladies Football Division 2. Barry Ryan's going to see out the rest of the show. How are you, Barry?
How are you, Ronan?
Lots to talk about. You made an appeal for change to fixtures last week, but did it happen, or did the Freebooters and the Town Celtic game clash?
Yeah, and look, you know what? It's funny. I look at the table today, and Clonmel Celtic play next Sunday against St Michael's, and that brings them with only 1 game left in the whole season on the 28th of February. And people will tell me that game has to be played at the weekend. And if we stick with with winter football, which we're being told we will, they won't play again until August.
Okay. All right.
Make that make sense.
1-1 was what happened on the pitch. Talk us through it.
Yeah, look, Ian Cleary and his management team, it's obviously such a tough job. They took a gamble, transferred Ian Healy from centre-back and even defensive midfield in other games to play them as a centre-forward. Was a real left-field move, but they were rewarded in the game. Ian Healy put them 1-0 up, and that lead stayed with them. Should have been a second or a third, but kept that 1-0, went into injury time, and then you know what's going to happen in injury time when you're having the season that Clonmel Town are having. Long ball clearance, evades a couple of Town players, breaks the ex-Town player Kyle Cuddy on the edge of the box, and to his credit, it's a great finish. And you know, when at this stage, if you had ducks, they'd drown. You're 6 inches from an unbelievable result, which would have galvanised everything, and now you're probably staring relegation in the face.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about relegation 3-pointers. So I think Celtic was certainly the happier team leaving the bypass yesterday, but it's wonder where Town can pick up the points now.
Yeah, now it leaves Town 4 points adrift of Cashel and Cullen, because Cashel beat Cullen 1-0. So Town are now 4 points behind, and their last 4 games are Pete Villa, St Michael's, Cullen and Care. So they've got to find 2 results.
Yeah, they do, and they need to find them fast. Disappointment for the youths against Freebooters. That's a fine Freebooters team, I understand.
Yeah, look, it's an excellent Freebooters team, and Freebooters themselves in the last few years have picked up a couple of Leinster Youth Cups, and you know, they're a really, really good side. To be fair to them, Shea Lynch, ex-St Michael's, is the senior manager in Freebooters, and he was actually involved with the youths that won a couple of those Leinsters and stuff as well. They're doing a lot of good work down there. And look, credit to the Clonmel Town youths. They've had a really, really good season. Getting to the last 16 of the country is nothing to be sniffed at. And they're still in contention to try and win the youth league if they can beat St Michael's next weekend. So, look, they'll be disappointed on the day, but they've had a really good season.
Yeah, I mean, like you mentioned at peak, defeated Cahir, Castletown defeated Cullen. That Castletown result, I'd say, is pivotal for Cashel.
Yeah, look, it's massive. It was a massive result, and it was 0-0, and Cashel missed the penalty. Cullen went down to 10. Everything was happening as always it tends to do at this time of season, those games, and then Cashel get a late winner. And I would think they're safe now. Camogie play Cullen next Sunday. If they don't win, they're down. If they win the game, all of a sudden they're back to within a point, and then they need to find a point against Cahir, Peakville or St. Michael's to try and force the playoff.
In 10 seconds we've remaining, result of the weekend might well have been Rose Green putting 5 past Tipperary Town in the Paddy Purtle quarter-final.
Yeah, and Rose Green are on course to win that second division, and Peakville have an excellent side in that division. So Rose Green have been a team all season that have been excellent to their credit, and that result is probably coming.
Listen, Barry, as always, thanks for your time tonight.
Thanks very much, Ronan.
Not at all. Barry Ryan with news of what's happening in the TSDL. That is all we've time for you this evening, I'm afraid. The Tip Leitrim is next Sunday afternoon. Our hurlers have the weekend off, and that's all we've time for. Ian O'Connor produced. We'll be back to you next Monday night. Until then, good night and good luck.
At 8, good evening, I'm Tina Gates. Former British ambassador to the US, Peter Mandelson, has been